Hey everyone, Fear Crawler here. Welcome to the vid- Whoa. Can we adjust tracking? Okay, perfect. For those of you that have been watching my channel for any length of time, you'll notice that I film exclusively on VHS. And it's a little bit of an expensive technology, but totally worth the extra money. Although there are rumors circling around the internet that they might replace it with something called a laserdisc. Sounds like sci-fi to me. Besides that, you can't believe everything you read on the internet, am I right? As you'll see in today's video, there's another individual obsessed with VHS tapes just like yours truly. Enjoy. Okay, I think it's on. Today is April 9th. My name is Vincent Bardo. I'm 34 years old, divorced, no children. I work as an architect for a large company. I've only recently started working again after a mental breakdown I suffered due to stress. Too many long hours at work under extremely tight timetables, coupled with my furious dedication to the job. Before the breakdown, I hadn't even taken so much as a sick day. I do have siblings, a twin brother named Alex and an older sister named Angela. I haven't seen them since our parents' funeral. If something happens to me, I need to know that they'll be safe. Let me just get into this. I probably should have started documenting this earlier, but nothing can be done about that now. There's a serial killer stalking me. He shows me his crimes, his murders. He films them. He's been leaving me videotapes at my house of his sick acts. The first tape showed up a few weeks ago. An old VHS tape with nothing written on it. Just a blank manufacturer's sticker from some company from Pasadena called Timecode that went out of business sometime in the early 2000s. I know because I went through hell trying to locate them. Maybe this monster was someone connected to that company? A former employee, perhaps? I don't know. The first tape was left inside my sun porch sometime in the middle of the night. At least that's what I'm assuming. It hadn't been there when I went to bed, which was pretty late. I locked the porch door at night, so I'm not sure how anyone would have gotten inside. The windows, perhaps? I don't know. Seems unlikely. They've been painted shut for as long as I've lived here. I didn't know what to make of it at first. The tape, I mean. It was just sitting there on the floorboards. Upon examining it, it looked like it had been dropped a few times. The edges were pretty roughed up, and there were also abrasions on the sides, like it had been used many times inside a camcorder. The sticker read 2 hours runtime standard play, but the tape amount on the spool was quite slim. I was curious. I went up to the attic and brought down my VHS player. I hadn't used it in over a decade, but fortunately, or perhaps unfortunately, it still worked when I plugged it in and played the tape. The video ran for the first several minutes with only darkness and grain. At least that's how it appeared. It was too dark to see anything, but I could hear something faint inside the static. It sounded like crying. The tape ran for another 15 minutes before stopping. I thought perhaps the VCR malfunctioned, so I hit the play button again, only for it to stop immediately. I ejected the tape and saw that it had indeed reached the end of what was on the spool, far less than the 2-hour runtime listed on the sticker. I had to get to work, so I left the tape sitting on the TV cabinet and headed to my job. The whole shift, I was in a complete daze as I pondered the footage I had just watched. When I got back home, I headed straight to bed and planned to watch the tape again the following morning before work. However, when I got up and went to my living room, the tape was gone. I thought maybe I might have misplaced it, but I clearly remembered leaving it on top of the TV cabinet. I went to work that morning feeling horribly perplexed. Not just about the tape's contents and the crying that I may or may not have been hearing on it, but also its strange appearance inside my porch and its mysterious vanishing act from my TV cabinet. When I got home from work, I went to the front door to check my mailbox before unlocking the door and heading inside with a handful of bills. I locked the door behind me, turned, and darn near tripped as my heel caught the corner of a VHS tape laying in my sun porch. I assumed that this was the same tape from the previous day and that I had perhaps put it back in the sun porch without even thinking. I took it to the living room to inspect the case under better light. I had cracked the corner of it when I stepped on it and thought that I may have ruined it. I put it into the VCR and rewound it to the beginning. I wanted to see if it would still play. I turned up the volume on the TV as loud as it would go. I wanted to get a better listen to the crying that I had heard on the tape. I began to fast forward past the dark part in the beginning, until something on the tape caught my attention. There was a brief stutter in the footage, followed by something that was not on the tape when I played it the first time. The image I was seeing was dark and distorted, but noticeable. I had to turn the volume down due to all the screaming coming from the video. There appeared to be someone restrained to a chair, most likely a female due to the high-pitched screeches, but the footage was too muddy to see her face. There was someone standing in front of her with something that looked like a hacksaw. Whoever it was appeared to be cutting off her fingers. This only lasted a few moments before the footage abruptly distorted again and went black. I was horrified. I ejected the tape and set it on top of my coffee table. What in God's name had I just watched? I was in a cold sweat and I felt sick to my stomach. I went to take a cold shower to rinse off the sweat before putting on clean clothes and grabbing my phone. I knew I needed to call the police. I knew that it was possible that I had just watched a murder happening, and I was now in possession of the evidence. I had just started dialing my cell phone when I noticed that the tape was not sitting on the coffee table where I had left it. Had someone taken it? I checked the front door and it was still locked. Same with the back door. I became nervous that someone might be inside my house, so I did a room-by-room check. I didn't find anyone, nor the tape for that matter. I was baffled. I had a rough sleep that night. I kept having nightmares about the woman in the footage. Who was she? Was she still alive? Was she dead? Was it real? Was someone just playing a twisted joke on me? There was another tape waiting for me inside the sun porch the following morning. Again, the front and back door were locked. There was a note attached to the tape. It read, "You should see yourself." The tape label read 2-hour runtime standard play. I called in sick to work. I played the tape and its contents scared me more than the footage of the woman from the day before. The tape started with the same black graininess before jumping to a 45-minute shot of me sleeping. Someone had been inside my house. Grabbing my phone, I hadn't even started dialing 911 when the footage jumped again. This time, it was a shot of my hallway closet door. In the footage, it was open, but as I glanced down the hallway, I could see that it was shut. I hadn't opened the closet door in several days. I wondered why I was being shown this. I went over to the closet and opened the door cautiously, fearing that there may have been someone hiding inside. I wish that had been the case. I saw a small white purse laying on its side on the floor of the closet. It looked to be very expensive, the kind only a handful of people could possibly afford. When I picked it up to take a closer look, a severed finger adorned in candy apple red nail polish and a gold wedding band rolled out of one of the pockets and landed on the closet floor. I jumped backwards and screamed, dropping the purse in the process. I'm not a forensics expert, but the finger looked to have been severed recently. I now had another piece of evidence inside my house of this maniac's deeds. I went back to the living room to get the tape from the VCR, but it was gone. The only thing that was still inside the house was the purse and the finger, and I had just unwittingly left my fingerprints all over the evidence. I didn't want to contaminate the scene further, so I put the purse and finger inside a plastic bag inside my freezer. My house was fast becoming a crime scene. I was too afraid to call the police now. What would I have told them? A tape of a possible murder showed up at my house and then it just vanished? The killer left evidence that has my fingerprints on it? There's no way they'd have believed I wasn't involved. The next few weeks, the cycle continued. More tapes appearing in my porch that went missing after I watched them. More victims appearing in the videos. More body parts and personal items showing up inside my home. More footage of me sleeping. More cryptic notes attached to the tapes. My freezer was now full of fingers, hands, and feet, not to mention extravagant wallets, purses, and jewelry. I had to throw all the food out just to make room for it. I began clipping newspaper articles of every missing person that seemed to match the killer's MO, as well as the items he left me. I needed to find a pattern. There had to be something I was overlooking. The victims looked to have all been financially well off based on their personal effects, and the amount of wedding rings left here led me to believe they were all married. I noticed that some of the tapes had sections of abrupt static where the images would disappear for a few brief moments before resuming, usually right before the camera angle shifted to something else. This didn't appear to be the cameraman starting and stopping the camera. These changes in the footage were more jarring than that. It was like something was missing. Something was being removed. Just to be certain, I ran a head cleaner through the VCR to see if it improved anything. It didn't. The footage in those sections remained just as they had appeared before, with those opaque jumps and static, saturated segments. As luck or perhaps fate would have it, one of the tapes got stuck inside the machine. I quickly unplugged the box and removed the cover to extract it, using great care not to damage it. This was when I noticed something shiny and sticky on the reel. It was clear adhesive tape. I began to slowly rotate the spool and observed multiple sections like this on the tape. The killer had been using a crude method of editing the footage by cutting out sections of the reel and taping the ends together. This would explain why the running time on each tape was off. But why would he do this? What didn't he want me seeing? Where was the missing footage? I noticed something else after the tape got stuck. I had scraped my thumb on the plastic as I was removing it from the VCR. There was a jagged corner on the case, a crack in the plastic, the same exact crack that the second tape had after I accidentally stepped on it. You see, I hadn't been receiving multiple tapes. I had been watching the same tape over and over again, with the footage inside being cut and spliced into different segments in seemingly random order. Why was he doing this? Was he toying with me? Was this a game? Why me? I haven't been to work in weeks. I've taken an extended leave of absence for the time being. I spent the entire morning setting up a motion-activated surveillance system to monitor the property. I'm going to sleep. Okay. It's just after 1 a.m. I don't know why, but I woke up a few minutes ago in a panic. I felt like someone was standing over me. I went to check the cameras and they hadn't been tripped. I checked both the front and back door and they're still locked. But someone has definitely been here. There's a tape on my nightstand with another note stuck to it. Same message as before. You should see yourself. I'm gonna watch it now. I'll continue this recording after I see what's on this tape. Oh my God. It was me. For the first time, the killer showed his face to the camera, and it was my face. I murdered those people. I can't remember doing it, though. It must be from the breakdown I suffered. I must be having blackouts. It makes sense now. The locks on the doors never being disturbed. The lack of any footage on the surveillance DVR system. The notes on the tapes saying you should see yourself. They were me writing to myself to stop the killing. I must have been setting up a camera at night and filming myself sleeping all those nights. I had to have been editing out every view of my face each time I tortured and murdered those people. I've been leaving myself clues this whole time. Some part of me must have felt guilty enough to finally leave an image of myself intact on this tape. I'm sure if I looked hard enough, I'd find the camera and the rest of the missing footage. I'm a monster. And I guess this tape is now a confession. Therefore, I confess. The evidence is in my freezer and on the tape inside the VCR. This will also serve as my last will and testament. I leave all my possessions and assets to my siblings. Please make sure the families of the victims know how sincerely sorry I am. Forgive me. I forgive you. It's not your fault Mom and Dad spoiled you and Angela like they did. It's not your fault you were successful and applied yourself. It's not even your fault that those people are dead. Happy, married, successful, entitled, and pampered snobs that they were. But it is your fault that you left your spare key in the most obvious of places. It is your fault you never noticed the food disappearing from the fridge. It is your fault you never once thought to check the basement. And it is your fault you never once picked up a telephone and checked in on your dear twin brother after all this time. But thank you for keeping those body parts and personal belongings in the freezer. Having your fingerprints on them and preserving them like that makes this so much easier. Just gonna borrow your tape recorder here and edit this part out. And don't worry about leaving anything for our sister. She was in the first video.
Well, I do hope that you enjoy. Whoa, adjust tracking. Perfect. Well, your buddy Fear is just gonna head over to Blockbuster and rent some more VHS tapes. Shouldn't take me too long. There was one just down the street like 10 years ago, so until next time, everyone take care, be safe, and above all, stay scared. Whoa. Adjust tracking.